My name is Nadia. I was just an ordinary girl, born in a simple village, but my life story was not simple. When I became old enough to understand things, the first thing I noticed was the cold looks on everyone's faces around me. My mother was a quiet woman, always busy with her work and unaware of the world's demands. My father stayed angry most of the time. He always complained or stayed silent, never showing kindness. I had two brothers who were a little older than me. Even as children, their eyes held a strange light, one that made it hard for a sister to feel safe. When I was 7 years old, my body began to change. My chest started to grow, and I felt confused and scared. One day, feeling ashamed, I asked my mother, "Amma, my chest hurts. What is happening?" She answered in a cold voice, "Every girl goes through this. You are growing up now." Thought for a couple of seconds. But I could not understand why growing up felt like a heavy burden. My brothers began to look at me with strange eyes. Sometimes I would catch them staring at me in secret, as if their gaze hid not a question but some other feeling. My aunt, the wife of my father's older brother, always made fun of me in one way or another. She would laugh and say, "Oh Nadia, you're already this big? May God protect you, don't let your fate be like Narcis's." At that moment, I did not know who Narcis was or what her fate had been, but I understood one thing: my aunt was not pleased with me. Thought for a second. My cousins, my uncle's sons, came to our house often. I remember one day when I was playing in the courtyard. One of them looked at me with a strange smile and said, "Nadia, you're growing up now. You're too old to play with dolls." Everyone laughed at his joke, but my heart felt tight with shame. From that day on, I stopped playing with my dolls. I thought maybe I really was too old to play. As I grew older, my body changed more and more. And with those changes, the way people treated me began to change, too. Thought for a second. The women in my neighborhood stared at me, whispering among themselves. One day, a woman said to my mother, "Sister, you should cover Nadia well. The world is full of danger, girls can lose their honor in the blink of an eye." Hearing this, my mother ordered me to wear long clothes all the time. But the child inside me could not understand what crime I had committed to deserve this constant shame. Whenever I attended a family gathering, the women would stare at my body, show little interest in what I said, and comment more on my dress. Once, an aunt said in front of everyone, "At this age, you've grown so big? Hurry up and get married, or your reputation will be ruined." It felt as if every part of my body had become a burden for others. Bit by bit, I began to hide myself from the mirror. Whenever I looked at my reflection, I felt ashamed, as if I were a sin, as if my very presence caused pain to everyone around me. Thought for a second. I spent the first years of my life just bearing people's stares, hearing their taunts, and holding secret questions in my heart. No one ever told me that I was special, that my life had value, or that these changes were natural. My brothers, who had once played with me, now kept their distance. They laughed at me, teased me, and sometimes tried to come close when we were alone, which scared me. But whom could I complain to? My parents were lost in their own world, and there was no one to understand me. This was my childhood, a childhood that pushed me into a strange silence. I became afraid to speak, and I had no courage to look anyone in the eye. I only felt peace in my dreams. In reality, a cloud of pain, burden, and shame hovered over me every moment. When I turned 9, my father enrolled me in the government school in our village. He believed education was necessary, but only so that a girl could read a letter or sign a form. I was already fond of studying, perhaps because school gave me a brief escape from my home's atmosphere. I would wake up early, eat breakfast, sling my bag over my shoulder, and walk toward the school gate with a special happiness in my heart, as if that building were my refuge. But the joy did not last long. The path to school wound through the village lanes, where young boys often leaned against walls with bad intentions in their eyes, crude words on their lips, and stones in their hands. When they saw me, they whistled, shouted rude jokes, and sometimes tried to pull my scarf. Terrified, I would hurry forward, whispering God's name in my heart, and wait only to cross the school threshold. I hated their behavior, but I could tell no one. If I told my mother, she would only say, "Wear your scarf properly and don't give the boys any chance." Thought for a couple of seconds. My father spent most of his time sleeping or smoking hookah. I could never speak up in front of him, because his eyes looked more like punishment than questions. My brothers were always angry, especially when I came home from school. They would demand, "Who were you talking to? Why were you laughing so much?" I wondered why they suddenly doubted me so much. One day my aunt said, "It's not right to educate girls too much, they become too arrogant." I felt like my dream was breaking apart, as if my schooling was no blessing but a sin. Then a terrible thing happened. A troubled boy from the village spread a false rumor that he often saw me in some secret place. The whole village talked about it. People said, "Nadia's character is bad. She only goes out on the pretense of school to meet some boy." When my father heard this, he flew into a rage. He grabbed my hair and threw me to the ground. My face swelled and my body turned blue with bruises. My brothers locked me in a room for several days, taunting me, "You have ruined our reputation and shamed us in front of everyone." I cried and prayed, telling God that I was innocent and asking why I had to suffer so much. But nobody listened. The school staff showed me sympathy, and my class teacher tried to speak up for me, but it was hard to change the whole village's mindset. My mother would sit beside me at night and say, "Daughter, be patient, time will change." Yet each night felt like another prison. Despite everything, I did not give up. With every taunt and accusation, I grew stronger. I worked hard in every class, hiding my tears, and held on to my dreams. Finally, when I finished my matric exams and held my certificate in my hand, it was the brightest moment of my life. I said to the school principal, "Sir, this certificate is not just paper, it is proof of my patience." He smiled, placed his hand on mine, and said, "You have shown great courage, Nadia. You are truly an inspiration." Thought for a second. When I brought the certificate home and showed it to my father, he stayed silent. He looked at me for a few moments and then turned away. My brothers said nothing, but when I saw my mother's eyes, they were full of happy tears. She placed her hand on my forehead and said, "May Allah grant you success, my daughter, you have endured so much." After matriculation, my dreams began to wake again. I wanted to continue my education, to enroll in a good college or university, to become someone respected, someone with status. But those dreams felt far from my reality. When I spoke of university admission, it was as if an earthquake struck our home. My father's eyes flew open as he exclaimed, "Matric is enough. Now learn your household duties. A proposal will come, and you will be married." My brother's anger rose to the sky again. The same old words, the same poisonous taunts, as if my education were a stain on their honor. But I did not stay silent. This time, I grabbed my mother's feet and, crying, said, "Ammi, I want to become something. Please give me just one chance. I promise I will not give anyone cause to complain." My mother's love won out once more. She spoke to my father, reasoned with my brothers, and after many days of pleading, I received conditional permission. I wiped away my tears and vowed in my heart that this time I would prove myself so well that no one could ever point a finger at me again. The first day of university felt like a rebirth. New buildings, new faces, a new atmosphere. I steeled my heart, kept my eyes down, and focused only on my studies. I attended every lecture, completed every assignment on time, and scored high marks on my exams. My teachers began to praise me, and I felt as though fate had turned in my favor. But fate perhaps was not ready to let me be happy. A few months later, that same boy who had spread lies about me in school reappeared in my path. He attacked my honor again, spreading false stories and claiming, "This girl was mine before, and she is mine now." Some boys at the university spread his rumors further, and once more my character was questioned. When the news reached my brothers, their anger went out of control. Thought for a second. When I got home, I faced a storm. My father slapped me, and my brothers stood at the door declaring, "Enough. You're not going anywhere now." My mother, who had always stood by me, cried and begged, but no one listened. They tore my university books from me, burned my bag, and locked me in my room again. I cried and pleaded, "He is lying, I am innocent," but my voice only bounced back from the walls. Once more my education was sacrificed, my dreams lay crushed. I would gaze at the sky through the window and whisper, "O Allah, what sin have I committed? Why am I punished every time?" But even my courage gave out. I shut myself away, stopped speaking, stopped writing, even stopped dreaming. Then my wedding day came, the day every girl dreams of. For me, it became a dreadful reality. I wore the bridal dress, but felt hollow inside, as if no life remained in me. Instead of joy, I felt only fear, because I knew this marriage would break me too. On the very first night, my husband mocked my silence instead of looking into my eyes. Every time I tried to share my heart, he saw only weakness. My feelings meant nothing to him, as if I were not human, but merely an obligation. My sisters-in-law pierced me with their taunts, about my skin color, about the dowry. My husband's words were never gentle, and with physical exhaustion came emotional pain. In his home, my character was questioned because I was silent. Each time, I stayed quiet and pleaded for justice from my Lord. Days turned into months, months into years, yet nothing changed. Even the child growing in my womb found no relief from this torment. When I became a mother, there was still no celebration in my in-laws' house. Instead, they taunted me that if a girl was born, she would become another burden. Thought for a second. One day my husband said, "You don't belong here. You are the curse on our fate." Those words felt like a final judgment. I was sent back to my parents' home, no wedding ritual, no farewell. Just my daughter in my arms and those wounds in my heart still fresh. I stood again at the same door from which I once left, but this time there was no henna on my hands, only tears, and instead of hope, there was despair. Life does not stop, it moves on even with scars. I had grown used to living with my pain, yet in a quiet corner of my heart a silent prayer lived on. Perhaps one day my fate would change. Then, at a neighborhood gathering, I tried to disappear among the crowd. A gentle man's eyes fell on me, and he said softly, "When I saw you, I felt you've endured so much, yet you remain so strong." I was startled. After all these years, someone at last saw the broken girl inside me. A few days later, he sent a proposal to my home. My parents were shocked. I was divorced, a mother, and society rarely accepts such matches. But he was different. He said, "I don't dream of a new girl. I want the woman who has already won life's hardest battles." Tears filled my eyes. For the first time, someone wanted me with such honesty. We married quietly, no grand ceremonies, only a promise that I would know no more pain. He never mocked my past and welcomed my daughter as his own. For the first time, I felt that a woman is not just a body, she has a heart, feelings, and dignity. He taught me how to live, healed my old wounds, and lovingly rebuilt the broken walls of my heart. Today, as I share my story, I want to leave you with one message: do not give up on life. When God tests us, He also refines us. Sometimes, only after everything falls apart do we find true happiness. Just a little patience, a little prayer, and a little courage. That was the message of my story. Please comment below and let me know how you feel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this story with your friends. Your support gives us strength.